Hey, what's good? What's good? What's good? Hey, people, this something new that I would definitely want to try for my podcast now, or whatever, man. Giving a little intro spiel, different things like that. Just a little message to pick up the day, pick up where you are, just so you can like flow real easy into the podcast and everything like that, man. But happy Pride Month, everybody. So you kind of know generally where this is at, what time of year it's at, different things. Hope you guys been doing really well. We're not. It's very interesting to see how times have evolved over the last few years, especially with Pride Month and everything like that, and just the neighboring supporting months that are slotted out to different things as well. Like last month, it was a Mental Health Awareness Month, and if I'm not mistaken, April was Asian Pacific Islander and his I don't want to say it wrong, and Hispanic month too. Please correct me, Lord, if I'm having that wrong or not. Sometimes things get blurred. I know I do remember May was Mental Health Awareness Month, and that's something I definitely want to push more and more on to not just my listeners, but people that I interact with on a daily basis and different things of that nature as well. But I do know that this month, June 2021, right here where we are right now, baby, I do know that it is Pride Month. So whoever you are in the LGBTQI plus community, I hope I'm saying that right. Please forgive me if I'm not saying that right at all. Hope you are expressing yourself to the fullest. Hope you know that it's not just about having a month. It's about doing you all day, every day, all year round, 365, 24/7, man. So I hope you guys are definitely taking it in, everything that's happening this month and everything that we're trying to do to empower not just you guys, but everybody else in this world as a whole. Because one minority is all minorities, and we fight for each other, man. Or at least we're gonna do it right here on this channel, on this platform, with me and some other people that I know as well. So I hope you guys take that in. Hope you guys love that. Definitely be hyped for this podcast, man. Have a really good guest coming in, somebody who I know from my school, Mississippi State. She is the director over one of the she's the director of something and the Holmes Cultural Diversity Center, which is a big thing at Mississippi State itself. I should know what she's director of because I literally said it in the podcast or whatnot, but she has been the director, the coordinator over one of the mentorship programs that I was involved in for the last 2 years as well. She was the director or the coordinator over it this year, and being able to get a chance to interact with her and different things like that was great. And just seeing who she is as a person, different things like that, and her visions for her life and for HCDC as a whole, which is the short name for Holmes Cultural Diversity Center, because nobody wants to say that a billion times. But seeing her visions for HCDC as well, and hopefully what it means for Mississippi State in the future was really nice to hear, man. So hope you guys definitely enjoy this podcast. I hope you guys definitely have a great day, a great night, great morning, whenever it is that you're listening to it, man. And keep being you, keep being up, keep being fly, and stay on the lookout for more podcasts, baby. Let's go get it. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys for joining once again. Today's podcast episode, I have a guest, Erin Jones. I know her from school that I go to, Mississippi State University, and just thank you for being on the podcast for today.
No problem. Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, first question, how do you like being at Mississippi State?
Oh, okay. So I tell everybody this. I I am originally from Memphis, and so I coming to Mississippi State, coming to Starkville. It was a transition. So the school, I love the school. I love Mississippi State. Starkville, not so much. There's nothing to do here, but it's okay because the job, it's very fulfilling. Mississippi State is nice. It's a wonderful school. We do great work. So that is kind of my answer. Mississippi State is cool. Starkville, not much.
Honestly, that sounds like every other person who goes here, a student or a teacher.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not much
um,
to do here. So
I think for me, when I first came, I kind of had to like realize that it kind of is like a college town.
mhm.
And so that's what they kind of like pride themselves on. But then looking at it, it's like when you look at other college towns, they do have other stuff. So it's like
Exactly.
they should
Exactly.
do better.
much better. At least have a target.
Well, I don't like
So
Target that much myself, but
what? Okay.
so kind of get into like all the craziness in the world or whatnot that's been happening for like the last
Hmm.
year and a half so far. What are some things that you kind of learned from like 2020 or even kind of starting this year too?
Hmm. Ooh. Oh, that's a hard one. Um, I feel like just learning how to navigate life, learning how to navigate changes and dealing with the changes. And so, like, I graduated from grad school in May of 2020. And so I was like job searching around like COVID and everything. And so many of the jobs that I was applying to were emailing me like, oh, we're sorry. We're not, due to COVID, we're going to have to pause our applications and our search process. And so getting all of those emails, rejection emails, all these things. So just navigating life and navigating those hardships and learning to like be positive. Like I know for my graduation, we had a virtual graduation and I had ordered a cap and gown and my cap and gown didn't get there in time for me to wear it for my virtual
Oh wow.
graduation. And I was just so upset. And I was like, well, I still graduated. Like this is still a good like a momentous occasion. And so just learning to be positive no matter the circumstances, but still allowing myself time to like, I'm sad, I'm upset, but it's okay because there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I think my biggest, like what I learned really was just how to navigate and how to remain positive or how to take the hand that I was dealt and make the best out of it. So I hope that answers your question. I know it's not something like particular that I've learned, but that is kind of overall what I've learned this year.
No, that's perfect. Especially with that
Mm-hmm.
last one, taking the hand that you dealt and just being able to
Mm-hmm.
use it. That's something that I
Mm-hmm.
have conversations with people all the time
Mm-hmm.
because we've all come from like different situations, and then leading up to COVID
Mm-hmm.
itself, it's all affected all of us individually differently as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's best for us to kind of just take it how we can and be able to move
Mm-hmm.
on too. So that's
Yeah.
definitely a perfect answer.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So tell me about how you decided on like the career path that you want to go on.
Ooh. Okay. And so I went to the University of Tennessee Knoxville for undergrad, and which is like a large-ish, predominantly white institution. And so coming from Memphis and going to UT, there was a lot of people from Memphis there. I guess it was just like another Memphis almost, but it was still hard for me to find like my place on campus. I was involved in student organizations, but I still didn't feel like I really belonged. Um, I'm a very like quiet, shy type person, and so I don't like. It's kind of hard for me to make friends sometimes, just because I am to myself, and that's probably because I'm in higher ed. So it's like, how does that work? But we'll get to that. But at the University of Tennessee, um, just trying to figure out like where I fit in was really hard. I think I started as like a psychology major, then I went to business, then I went to history. I was like, you know what, I like history. I'm gonna be a history teacher. I took a teaching class where you get to like be a TA almost for a semester. And I was like, oh no, 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 this is not for me. I did not enjoy it. And so I was like, you know what, Erin, like what else is there to do? And so around that time I also was a TA peer mentor type for this first year studies class. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed working with like the first year students at UT. We talked about like study skills, getting to know the campus, organizations on campus. I was also on the executive boards of organizations such as like a mentoring program organization. And so I really enjoyed doing those organizations more than I enjoyed going to my history classes. And so I was talking to my mentor and she was like, you know what? You don't know what you want to do. I was like, girl, you're right. I don't. She's like, but you should try student affairs because that's what she did. She's like, you should really think about it. And so I thought about it. I applied to grad school. And I remember like people would be like, "Oh, Erin, what are you doing after graduation?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to grad school." They're like, "Oh, what for?" And I was kind of like embarrassed to tell people that I was going to school for higher education. They're like, "Ooh, what is that?" And so I got to FSU, and then I worked in fraternity sorority life. I really loved the program. I loved my assistantship, and so that's kind of how I got into higher ed. I think just through my student organizations and my mentors, and then it's. I feel like people go to student affairs because they've enjoyed their college years. And for me, I just didn't know what else to do, honestly. So it sounds bad. But I'm like, I enjoy student affairs. Like, I enjoy working with students. And so I don't have nothing else to do. Let's go ahead and try it. Tried it and I loved it. So
It's actually funny. I've heard a few other stories from like people that I've met in student affairs, and
mhm.
they all kind of have like similar stories. Like they had
Yeah.
one major and like it didn't necessarily work out, or by the time it
Mhm.
was senior year, they know they didn't want to do that, and so they ended up
Yeah.
going to grad school or like switching their major or something, and ended up in student affairs.
Mhm. I mean, it's pretty. If you were involved in undergrad, it's pretty easy to kind of make the transition. So
Um, so kind of shifting gears a little bit, how well do you think diversity has been established at MSU?
how well do I think diversity has been established? Are you asking like particularly about like diversity on the campus or like diversity and inclusion and equity?
Um, well, I guess it kind of do both sides.
Okay. So in terms of just diversity, I know and I've been told that MSU is one of it is the most diverse SEC schools, um, like across the board. So I guess in diversity, it's doing better than other SEC schools. But then it's like, is that really saying anything because of
Yeah.
the population of like Black people in Mississippi or the population of other ethnicities or races in Mississippi? And so is that um, population, does it match up to the population in Mississippi? It doesn't. So is it really diverse? Like they say that it's the most diverse school in the SEC. I mean, they're doing good compared to other SEC schools. So I guess so. Um, and then in terms of like inclusion and equity, I know that is something that we're really working on is creating more equitable practices, making the university more equitable. I know like the retention rates and the graduation rates of Black students and Pell eligible students are low compared to other students. They're also low compared to other SEC schools. And so that is something that we've really been working on. I know there's just been the Division for Access, Diversity, and Inclusion that's been created. And so that is one of the key parts of that division is making sure that the university is becoming more inclusive and becoming more equitable. And so there's been a lot of discussions about how are our programs promoting equity, or how are we having equitable mindsets in our instructions, or instructions in the classroom, or how are we providing opportunities for our students of color, our low income students, our first generation students, our marginalized students. And so I think we're working on it, but there's still more work that needs to be done. So, but also as we know, like Mississippi State wasn't created for minority students. And none of these schools were created for minority students. And so because of the essence of these universities and because of like the history of them, there's always going to be more work that needs to be done. And sometimes that goes far beyond what like a program coordinator can do or an associate director can do. It's kind of at the center of the university, at the center of the institution. So personally, I think it's beyond like, yes, I can do work to increase the diversity, equity, inclusion, but it's also like systemic in higher education institutions. So
I know for me personally, the way I look at it is like, well, when I first came here, I didn't necessarily catch that sense of like the diversity and equity and
Mm-hmm.
inclusion. Not to say it was bad, but I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
catch like any people necessarily trying to like promote it or work
Mm-hmm.
on anything. And so
Mm-hmm.
once 2020 rolled around, and then like it became
Mm-hmm.
this huge revelation to the rest of the world, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like Mississippi State in a way kind of jumped on the bandwagon a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that that's wrong, but I felt like they're one of those unique schools that's in that position, like you said, with being in Mississippi, with the percentage of Black people that are here, with them
Mm-hmm.
being the most diverse in terms of population wise, they've had more opportunities and more time to probably start to do
Mm-hmm.
those things and get it right and kind of be a blueprint for like other
Mm-hmm.
institutions. But it is good to hear like there are programs being
Mm-hmm.
launched, there are task force being created, and different things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me personally, it's always good to kind of have the students involved in those discussions or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know a lot of times the students aren't necessarily involved or like they're involved in a certain scope. Because
Mm-hmm.
being able to talk to my mentor, Dr. Gardner, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
when he was on his task force for the COVID protocols and everything,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that he was highlighting too, whenever we would talk about it, was how he didn't sense a lot of student involvement
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of discussions. It was kind of just like SGA representatives or things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was like, okay, it's cool that SGA is kind of
Mm-hmm.
representing us in a way, but I didn't feel a sense of like actual any form or any line of communication happening between them to us. And so it's
Yeah.
like I would love to see more kind of like town hall forums or whatnot, or some type
Mm-hmm.
of systems where it's like the actual student body themselves can be heard, or a
Mm-hmm.
better system to where it's like we can have what we actually want and what we actually want to say
Mm-hmm.
be directly fed through SJF. Those have to be the representatives to like those people in those different groups
Mm-hmm.
actually making those decisions for us, especially when it comes to diversity, equity, and
Mm-hmm.
inclusion.
I most definitely agree. I most definitely feel that students, like, how can you make decisions for students without talking to students? Or how can you create programs for students without talking to students? Or how can you, like, increase inclusion for students if you don't know the experiences of students on campus? And so I agree.
This is actually one of my goals that I hopefully will accomplish before I graduate, to try to make a better impact with that,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. But we'll see how
I
that
think you're on the
goes.
right track. I'm going to write that down to make sure, and I'm going to share that. Like, hey, we need to make sure that we're including students in these, because I think that everybody's like, oh yeah, we need to include students, but it's like, do we actually include students in
Yeah.
these conversations? And so that's why, like, I send out surveys all the time, or I ask for feedback, or I ask for meetings. And I'm like, okay, so what do you think about this? So what do you want to see? Because I want to hear the students and know what you all want and what y'all want to see and how the experience is going for you. So yeah, but I'm gonna make sure that I share that with everyone,
Thank you.
for the people that I
um,
can.
well, yeah. So what has it been like working with the organizations that you've been like working with in HCDC?
Ooh. So since this was my first year and I came during COVID, I think last semester, it wasn't rough, but I feel like I wasn't able to create the connections that I wanted to because of COVID. Like, everything was virtual. Um, it was different. And so like this semester before graduation, I wanted to have like meetings with the seniors of Ideal Woman before they left. And I was like, I know that we haven't like met before because I know in person because of COVID and everything and all these restrictions. But I just want to say like congratulations, all of these things. And I'm like, I'm so sad that I didn't get to meet you. And I'm like, I'm so sad that I didn't get to meet you before now too. And so it I am like proud and I'm happy that I got to experience this, and I'm proud of like students that I work with for being able to make it through COVID and plan and do all these virtual events and still like retain members. But I'm sad that like COVID was going on, and we didn't get to meet in person. Like my first year here, and I felt so disconnected, but also I know like we were doing the best that we could. And so the work was good. We did good work, but it just wasn't what I would have wanted for my first year. But it was still good. So I've enjoyed working with the student organizations that I work with, and I'm excited to like continue working with them and to continue building relationships and excited to see where they continue to go, especially having like this experience this year as an experience now knowing like, hey, we don't like we can do hybrid events or we can do some type of we can have some of our events virtual or my favorite thing is like not everything has to be in person, not everything needs a
Yeah,
meeting. Something could be sent through email. So I think we're learning a lot. I think the students are learning a lot. So
I definitely
I know my answers are really long-winded.
no, they're good. Well, me personally, I
Okay.
like long-winded answers.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I know I was paying attention kind of like from an outside view on like ideal women.
Mm-hmm.
I know for what they were able to do, especially during COVID, it was actually really good
Mm-hmm.
and really
Mm-hmm.
inspiring too, for them to still be able to make an impact in the community and on
Mm-hmm.
campus as well. But like you said, I think COVID probably did a lot more for the students and the organizations versus
Mm-hmm.
like the advisors or whatnot to actually kind of
Yeah.
show us like there are different ways for us to still be able to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, especially like one of the organizations I'm in, NESB, it was kind of hard to
Mm-hmm.
get people out to those events. Even
Yeah.
the in-person ones that we had, it was kind of hard. But just for
Mm-hmm.
us to have a different scope for like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is how we can do this in the future, and it doesn't always have to be like in person or doesn't always have to be in
Mm-hmm.
virtual, different things like that. And so I think that was
Yeah.
actually really good. One of the good highlights of kind of COVID
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
So kind of staying on HCDC, how do you, well, even though you just finished your first year, how do you
Mm-hmm.
see it evolving over the next like 5 to 10 years, even if you're not here?
Mm-hmm. So I think ACDC being like the diversity center, the programming center for diverse populations on campus, I really see the center putting on more programs and being having a bigger reach for students on campus. Right now, we do good work. The student organizations, they're doing good work, but I really see us providing like larger programs for the rest of the institution. For like, even if you don't like identify with any of the student organizations, you are still welcome to come into the space. You're still welcome to attend the organization. I mean, the programs. And so, like, we have our Dogs After Dark events within ACDC, but having like these bigger programs more often for all students to come and attend. And so we're creating, it's not just our student organizations that are putting on programs, but the center is putting on programs, or we're having more dialogues, or we're having town halls where we're getting opinions for students. We're like a space for where students know they have a voice, where their voices can be heard. We're providing opportunities for students. So I just see it's being having a bigger reach and a bigger scope of influence.
I
Yeah.
definitely am hoping that it does get that way. I know for
Mm-hmm.
me coming in here, me starting off, I was in mocks, so that was kind of like my first
Mm-hmm.
direct line with ACDC. But just being a part of the center itself and being able to kind of see the different things that are going on, I really love
Mm-hmm.
every part about it, and I genuinely want to see it grow and evolve more. And so I
Mm-hmm.
definitely hope it gets to that type of point on campus and has that impact for future student generations.
Mm-hmm. I think we can make it. I think SCDC in a few years, hopefully it'll be much bigger. All of the
Oh, I
students know,
definitely need
like,
to see
oh
that.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
ACDC. Mm-hmm.
It's actually
Like I
kind of
know, like a
funny.
few students. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say
I
it's actually
hate
kind of
Zoom.
funny how some people they walk around the union and they're
Mhm.
like, what is ACDC? And then like somebody in there
Mhm.
has to like explain it to them or whatnot. But it's like,
Mhm.
it's been here for so long and people should know
Yeah.
kind of what it is already.
Mhm. It's like I think we were getting ready for our Black History Month program, I think, and a few Black students, they were like, "Yeah, we've never been in here. We don't even know what this place is. We didn't even know about it." We're like, "What do you mean you didn't know about it?" And they were like, "Yeah, no, we've never heard of it. I think we're maybe like juniors or seniors." I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
"Wow!" Like, and so that just means like our work is not done. So,
Yeah.
like, if students don't know about ACDC, then we have more work to do. So, yeah.
Uh, I guess like my last question, or like
Okay.
second to last question would be, um, so like, what else are you doing in your life, kind of like outside of MSU, or even a part of MSU?
Mm-hmm. What else am I doing in my life? um, so I really love to travel. Uh, but money is kind of funny, especially working in education and higher education. The funds are a little limited, so I try to like save my little coins. I can travel, but I really do enjoy traveling. I can see myself, like a travel agent. I'm thinking about like maybe doing like travel blogging, vlogging. I feel like I'm a little too awkward for that. I don't have anything to say. I'm like, "What's up, y'all?" Just like that's not me. So, but I do enjoy traveling. So on the weekends, I like try to get out, go different places, just like get out of Starkville. So, and then what else am I doing at MSU? I work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Sometimes on the weekends, plus sometimes after 5. So I need my me time.
That's definitely
But I'm taking
understandable.
a class. I'm taking a class in Maymester, like starting today. So I'm
Ah,
doing that.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
It's always interesting to know like what other things that like the teachers or like higher ed people or anything are doing at MSU, because like
mhm.
I only see you in one light, but you might be doing like
Yeah.
10 other things here. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Nah. But I know people who are like they're doing everything on campus.
yeah.
Maybe next year, like once COVID, I know we're opening back up like 75%, and they're relaxing a lot of like the COVID restrictions. And so hopefully there'll be more to actually do. But I think also because of COVID this year, I was like there's not really much to do but go to work and go home. So yeah,
Hopefully
hopefully I do
after
more.
COVID officially passes, then everything
Yeah,
will like open itself up. And so we
yeah.
can definitely have more people to say that they actually know what ACDC
Hmm.
is and other things.
Hopefully, hopefully, hopefully. I'm looking forward to that day.
So my last question is kind of a tradition that I like trying to start out kind of for like my podcast, especially when I have guests on here. But
Hmm.
the question I have for you would be, if you were to go back in time to your younger self, or if you had anything to say to your younger self, what would it be?
Okay, what would I say? That's so hard. Oh my god, I feel like I would tell myself so much. Um,
It could be like one or two things.
okay, so oh my gosh, I feel like there's stuff that I'm still trying to tell myself. Um, I think one thing that I would tell myself is like be true to you. Especially, I went like in middle school, I went to like a private middle school, a private Christian middle school, and then I went to like a public high school. And so that transition, I was like trying to fit in. I was always like, I was very awkward in middle school, and I was just about the same in high school. But then I was like trying to fit in with everybody or find like my crowd. And then going to college, I was still trying to like fit in. Um, so I was like hanging out with people that I honestly had no business hanging out with. So just trying, like, I just wasn't true to myself. I was just trying to fit in with people, trying to find friends. Like, just I was like, do what works for you. Stay true to yourself. Um, what else do I tell myself? try new things. Honestly, I know that's very cliche, but I feel like I'm such a like strict type person. Like trying new things makes me nervous. I'm like, you know what? Why try new things when I already know what I like? But like, I really wish I would have like gotten out more. I really wish I would have like gone to different student organizations or gone to different events because that's how I probably could have made friends, honestly, instead of like just sitting in my dorm room. Um, so yeah, and be more friendly. I would be more friendly because I am so like quiet. I am like a listener. I don't really talk much in social settings, and so I'm like that awkward person that like I'm having a conversation with you and you're doing all the talking. I'm just like
Definitely
mm-hmm.
me.
And like yeah, and it's like sometimes like I'm more processing what you're saying instead of trying to think of what to say. And so then when you're done talking, I'm like, oh, like that was like I don't always have something to say. I'm trying to find something to say. Like I know like my parents used to always get on me. Like, they were asking like, oh, how was your day? And I'm like, it was good. Like, I could have said more. How was my day? And so I'm very like short, sweet, to the point. So maybe like being more friendly, talking more, being more open, having more conversations, more intentional conversations, I would say too. And I'm saying this, and I'm probably still going to continue doing the same thing that I've been doing. So I need to tell myself that now.
Every day is definitely a different day. Well, a new opportunity to be able to start to do those things.
It is. And I wake up and I'm like, you know what? Today I'm going to be more friendly, or today I'm going to do this. And I get there, I'm like, ooh, I said today was going to be the day, but I don't think today's going to be the day. So maybe one day it'll be the day.
Well, those are all of my questions or whatnot. But thank you once again for being a guest on my podcast. I really enjoy this talk and everything. Especially just being able to like talk aside from like me being in the mentorship program. So, but
Yeah.
it was great, especially those last part for the different day that you would tell yourself.
Right. Yeah, it's been fun. I feel like I'm usually the one asking you all the questions, and you're just answering my questions. So it was cool to answer your question.
Well, thank you once again, and hope you guys definitely like this one and be able to check out some more of my upcoming podcasts, or just go back to my other ones as well. So that'll be the end of it.